मैं आप सभी का जो यहाँ उपस्थित हैं तो उनका धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा कि आपने अपने कीमती समय से यहाँ आने का प्रबंध किया और आप यहाँ आए जीएसटी के सेमिनार में, जो एक अपने आप में एक यूनिक बट पूरे दिन का टाइम मिल पाना ओनली फॉर द डिस्कशन फॉर जीएसटी इज रियली अ यूनिक अपॉर्चुनिटी। तो मैं आईपीएम को, यहाँ प्रोफेसर गोयल साहब को, डायरेक्टर जनरल साहब को, एमसी वर्मा साहब को इस चीज़ का बधाई देना चाहूँगा कि उन्होंने एक बहुत एप्ट टॉपिक इसमें चूज़ किया, गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स के बारे में डिस्कस करने का, और गाज़ियाबाद की इंडस्ट्री के लिए, यहाँ के फैकल्टी के लिए, यहाँ के बच्चों के लिए, प्लस जो गाज़ियाबाद के बार एसोसिएशन के मेंबर्स हैं उनके लिए ये बहुत अच्छी एक हिस्ट्री पर कुछ आप आके हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट में बोलिए। तो मैंने उनको प्रेरित किया और आज एक इतना अच्छा स्वरूप यहाँ हो पाया। और हमारे पास विमल जैन साहब, अमृता जी, प्रशांत जी, जीके मित्तल साहब और इतने अच्छे स्पीकर्स यहाँ पर, अरविंद शर्मा जी हैं, नॉर्थ जोन एग्जीक्यूटिव के मेंबर हैं, ऑल इंडिया फेडरेशन ऑफ टैक्स प्रैक्टिशनर्स के, उनका भी मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहूँगा। हमारे एडिशनल कमिश्नर साहब जो इस एरिया के पूरा कंट्रोल करते हैं, कमर्शियल टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट। मैं देख रहा हूँ कि इंडस्ट्री के बहुत से गाज़ियाबाद इंडस्ट्री से बहुत लोग यहाँ आए हैं। मैं उन सब लोगों का पर्सनली आभार व्यक्त करना चाहूँगा कि वो लोग सब यहाँ आए। जो मेरा आज का टॉपिक है वो है, उसको मैंने 4 पार्ट्स में अपने डिवाइड किया है। स्कोप एक्चुअली जीएसटी का बहुत वाइड है। जब हमने इस सेमिनार को, इस स्वरूप को ढालने की कोशिश की तो मैंने कुछ टॉपिक्स उसमें से चूज किए और डिफरेंट सेमिनार, डिफरेंट सेशंस में उनको बांटा। डिफरेंट एक्सपर्ट्स ने हमें अपनी कंसेंट दी टू टेक अप दोज इश्यूज, और इस तरह से ये अच्छा स्वरूप इस सेमिनार का बन पाया। तो इस फर्स्ट टेक्निकल सेशन में हमने, हमारे साथ मिसेस अमृता मित्रा जी हैं, बहुत सीनियर मेंबर हैं, इंडायरेक्ट टैक्स को बहुत सालों से करते नहीं हैं। मेरी बड़ी पुरानी इनसे मुलाकात, आज बहुत दिनों बाद इनसे भेंट हो पाई है। ऐसे विमल जैन साहब हैं। तो आप लोग अपने अपने सब्जेक्ट्स को डील करेंगे। जो मैंने अपने लिए रखे हैं लिमिटेड, वो हैं वाई जीएसटी एंड why GST. Then the second issue I would be touching is dual GST model in India and rate of tax. Then major milestones in GST implementation, and last reform for indirect tax in the country. So I would be first touching this why GST. As you know, India is a federal country. We are having 28 states and 7 union territories, and some of the union territories have their own legislature, some of them do not have their own legislature. These states and union territories have divergent culture, living style, governance, food habits, as well as a peculiar trade and industry in themselves. Like in Kerala and other southern countries, their economy is based on oil production. West Bengal and Odisha have different industry. Punjab is agriculture based. So we are a divergent country. The second question which comes to my mind is United States of America, which is also a federal structure, similar like us, and the strongest economy. They don't have GST system. They have never, but this aspect of the issue have been dealt in the year 2000 beginning, और उसके बाद government of India ने decide किया no, we have to go to GST. There were allegations by the opposition that this is under pressure from large economies and IMF and all that. But still, government of India had thought of that it is beneficial to us, and then they have decided to go for GST. As I was talking about the US government and what is the need for GST to be implemented, the basic need of GST is having a very strong center, a very strong central government. In United States, there are 50 states which guard their turfs and constantly, which is similar is the case in India also. Between the states and the federal government or the central government, as we normally call in India. So, this is the biggest and the largest problem for implementation or adoption of GST in the country. The political ideologies are different, but we have a step forward. We have decided now to adopt GST, and to overcome this problem, the government of India and also the opposition parties, which then was BJP, have decided to form an empowered committee of the state finance ministers, and it was good that the chairman of the empowered committee was of the BJP ideology, even though the center was being governed by the Congress. The existing indirect structure, although evolved over a period of time, is regressive in nature, with issues of multiple taxation, differentiation between goods and services, multiple administration issues. But this indirect tax system has, to my mind, has some important issue. One of the largest issue is hindering economic growth, obstacles to business activity, distorting competition, double taxation, frequently amended tax laws, excessive compliance cost. Double taxation has already in Ghaziabad. I will take the example of Ghaziabad itself, this case which is though in the direct tax regime, but it has adversely impacted the stability of our tax system in the country. And that too after the clear verdicts of the Supreme Court. That is very astonishing, and it's a great concern for everybody of us. Similar things have happened in the indirect tax regime in the anti-tax matters by various states. Again, the litigation is going on. The Honorable Supreme Court have made a interim order that 50% you deposit, 50% you have to put in the escrow amount and all. All these things create uncertainty in the mind of the taxpayer, and believe me, this is the largest problem. If a taxpayer knows his liability from the day one, he will plan his business. He will plan his transactions like that and will then start doing business. So he knows what will be his profit. He will take all the precautions and all the necessary at the very beginning. So that is a very big hurdle, and we think that some of the negative issues will be covered with the GST, but set of mind with the right spirit by the tax collectors as well as taxpayers, then only we will be able to achieve the benefits of the new system of law. Now, going a little further deeper into why GST. Considering the growing stature of India in global economy, India needs to adopt the best tax systems to grow and maintain its competitive advantage. Introduction and implementation of GST will have major positive impact on all enterprises and stakeholders in India. The key impact can be summarized as the first is abolition of multiple tax laws. Introduction of GST will lead to convergence of existing taxes into ideally one single GST law, or as proposed presently dual GST law as CGST and SGST. Second is clarity in taxing systems. GST will bring out clarity in taxing system having certain degree of stability and parity with reduced exemption and single floor rate of taxation for goods and services. I would be dealing the rate of tax in my everything would be IT driven, and since there would be lesser personal interaction, the routine type of problems or hurdles or due to which there is corruption, so that would be avoided as is expected in GST. Then we have already talked about this removal of cascading effect of taxation, and one of the largest ever scam which has happened world over is in ITC. And only in the figure which I have is in the year 2005-06, the single country UK have suffered a loss of $12.6 billion, which comes out to about 1,000 crore or so, which is in the European Union is a very, very big problem, and which we are also observing in our country. Our additional commissioners are there and is facing all those problems of the state of UP. So we have to address this while implementing GST.
So they are
The then Finance Minister Honorable Shri Pranab Mukherjee in his speech before the National for a level playing field to domestic producers and has a potential of providing inbuilt stimulus in the economy by removing tax distortions and tax exemption competitions which GST can provide. So he has summarized the advantages of GST, and this was the gist component of our exports will not be there, so we will be competitive in exports, which have been talked about. 2% percentage point का लाभ होता है, हमारी इकोनॉमी डबल हो जाती जैसा एक्सपेक्टेड था in a short span of time. But unfortunately, because of the federal structure and because government of India was in hurry to implement GST, and because of different ideologies in governance of various different states, so that is not possible. So एक dual GST का मॉडल यहाँ एक विचार किया गया और उसको अडॉप्ट करने की बात की गई, जिसमें सेंट्रल GST और स्टेट GST दो हमारे GST रहेंगे। और जैसा पिछले स्पीकर्स ने काफ़ी डिटेल में बताया, मैं उसको स्ट्रक्चर को बहुत डिटेल में नहीं जाना चाहूँगा। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट की बात अमृता जी करेंगी, तो आई एम नॉट टचिंग दैट एस्पेक्ट। ड्यूअल जीएसटी में दो जीएसटी होंगे सेंट्रल टैक्सेस के लिए, एक स्टेट टैक्सेशनल एंड टॉयलेट प्रिपरेशंस एक्ट 1955, एडिशनल एक्साइज ड्यूटी, सर्विस टैक्स, एडिशनल कस्टम्स ड्यूटी लेविड ऑन इंपोर्ट्स ऑफ गुड्स, special additional duty of customs levied on imports of goods, and central surcharges and cesses. Similarly, in the state tax, other than those levied by local bodies, entry tax, एंट्री टैक्स के बारे में थोड़ा बताना चाहूँगा। एंट्री टैक्स का जो ओरिजिनली गवर्नमेंट ने सोचा था कि एंट्री टैक्स सब्ज्यूम होगा, उसके बाद ये हुआ कि नहीं होगा, बट लेटेस्ट जो जैसे टेबल जी ने अपने एड्रेस में पीछे बताया, जो पार्लियामेंट्री कमेटी के सामने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अमेंडमेंट बिल कंसिडरेशन में है, उसमें एंट्री टैक्स को वो सब्ज्यूम करने की बात उसमें मानी गई है लास्टली। दिस इज द लेटेस्ट थिंग। सो वी एक्सपेक्ट दैट एंट्री टैक्स भी उसमें सब्ज्यूम होगा। देन लग्जरी टैक्स, taxes on lotteries, betting and gambling, taxing on advertising, state surcharges and cesses relating to supply of goods and services. Then CST will be phased out, but IGST will the credit would be available to the dealers. ड्यूअल जीएसटी में जो टैक्सेबल इवेंट्स होंगे और जो न्यू कॉन्सेप्ट्स आने जा रहे हैं, जिसके बारे में नेक्स्ट सेशन में ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज, नॉट एट द पॉइंट ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चर, नॉट एट द पॉइंट ऑफ सेल. सप्लाई हैज अ वाइडर कॉनोटेशन, सो द बिजनेस हैज टू लुक टू दिस एस्पेक्ट एज टू व्हाट इज द आर द सप्लाई ट्रांजैक्शंस, and they are also being subjected to GST after its implementation. मैं समझता हूँ कि सप्लाई को टैक्स करने में पूरी की पूरी इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स जो हम सन 48 से 47 से लगाते आ रहे थे एट द पॉइंट ऑफ से, वो पूरी की पूरी फिलॉसफी चेंज हो जाएगी. So this is a very important thing which we must change in our minds. दूसरा, जो सर्विसेज की डेफिनेशन की बात मैं यहाँ करना चाहूँगा, विमल जैन साहब ने भी इसको टच किया था. मैं आपसे एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ शेयर करने जा रहा हूँ. दिस इज द डेफिनेशन ऑफ सर्विस which has been presently provided in the constitution, which is going to be put before the parliament. That is article 366 clause 26 capital A. इसमें जो सर्विस की डेफिनेशन अभी विमल जैन साहब ने सर्विस टैक्स एक्ट में बताई, उसमें तो फिर भी थोड़ा सा every transaction, everything would be subjected to tax in GST. We must give a very deep thought to this definition and put up our views before this constitution amendment is adopted by the parliament. A debate must go on in the country on this very aspect. Otherwise, everybody of us would be suffering because of this provision. And I would urge Vimal Jain through PSD Chamber of Commerce to take up this issue before the Government of India, before the Parliamentary Standing Committee, to interstate GST model ensure that input tax of SGST will be transferred by the exporting state to the importing state, and the SGST portion of the IGST paid to the central agency by the exporter will be credited to the importing state by clearing agency. Thus, the importing dealer can fully credit the common market. This is fulfilling one of the aims of GST, which we talked about in the name of harmonized trade and harmonized transaction. I have tried to explain it in the next slide. This is state 1, this is state 2. From state 1, a dealer issues an invoice for value of goods, say 100 rupees. CGST is nil, SGST is nil, because this is an interstate transaction. It is not a local transaction. It is an interstate transaction from one state to another state. Sorry. So IGST with the proposed rate as of now is 20%. So 20% would be taxable. So 120 rupees he will be charging. and this IGST of 20 rupees would be deposited in a specified agency, which the clearing house would be giving credit to into the coffers of the state too. As soon as the transaction is held outside the regime of GST, but the industry as well as we from AIFTP have also represented this matter before the Parliamentary Standing Committee. I personally appeared, and I have the advantage of this appearance before the Parliamentary Standing Committee. I argued this matter for almost 1.5 hours before Mr. Yashwant Sinha and 32 parliamentarians which were there in this meeting, and ultimately this aspect of keeping these goods out of the regime of GST has been dropped. Because what would be the basic effect? These petroleum crude and all these petrol, diesel, etc. are major components of the cost of production. If they are out of the regime of GST, then the cascading effect would have been remained in the economy, which would be disadvantageous to the country. So now it is a good news that these items would be also included in the GST regime, and the new draft bill which is coming to Parliament in list 1 which is the union list in Article 84, these items have been dropped by the Government of India. I believe the input tax credits exemptions we have already talked in the first session. The 3-year roadmap for the rate, which has already been covered by Mr. Siddharth Mehta. Constant and direct touch with the empowered committees, with the Government of India, the Tax Research Unit of the Government of India. So whatever the industry which are present here have any issues regarding GST, please.
Mr. Gupta, Ms. Amrita, distinguished members, good afternoon once again. Different aspects. The first important aspect, preparedness. Are we prepared? Do we know what kind of GST we are looking into? What kind of GST we are talking about? What dual GST mean all about? How it is going to subsume major of the indirect taxes, and how it is going to benefit trade, industry and commerce, and basically a consumer. Subsequently, what are the application, IT application we require? Because in India you got MNC, foreign MNC, you got large business, you got medium size, you got small business, and you got certain trader who does only khata bhai. They are not having any kind of tally or package. So we have to understand what kind of GST we are talking about. Subsequently, we have to look at our IT system at the department level. Sorry sir, don't take me otherwise. Additional Commissioner Commercial Tax is also sitting. So you should not be taking me negative. Look at the IT system presently in the department. See, today for registration, some of the states follow online, some of the states follow manual, and you know how you get your registration done. Subsequently, when you get your registration done, there's a practical problem of classification. Under which classification your product is falling. Registration is granted for the 4% rate of that. But subsequently, after 4 years, department will confirm demand against you, your classification would be 12.5, not 4%. So we are having number of problems around. So let's understand from that perspective what kind of IT we are looking into. Our GDP of the country basically dependent on 3 major items. Agriculture, IIP, which is involved manufacturing, and the service sector. agriculture rate is going down. IIP is not being able to meet even 3% growth, only growing by 8%. So service tax is the important tax as on date. But look at the IT parameter which is presently existing. Look at the excise first and how we got started. We are talking about biggest indirect tax reform in the name of GST. 1986. Before that, 1983, 46th Amendment to the Constitution of India. You got deemed sale. Deemed sale concept. What is deemed sale? It is deemed, it is sale. What is the deemed sale? Works contract, AC restaurant, and then state government empowered to charge sale tax. Prior to that date, even sale tax was not leviable on works contract, Gannon and Dunkerley case. But subsequently you started charging sale tax on deemed sale. 1986, moderate. First time excise paid on input used for manufacturing of excisable goods. You are allowed to avail credit, and this credit can be utilized with the payment output excise duty liability on manufactured goods. We moved to 1991. Mr. Chalaya committee recommended VAT in the country, followed by GST. I will tell you what is the VAT we have as on date, how we started and where we have reached. 1994, 1st July 1994, service tax levied on free services at the rate of 5%. Until 1st July, 119 taxable category on which service tax was applicable. Come back. On 2004, 10/9/2004, but prior to that, the first state was Haryana. 1st April 2003, VAT got implemented. 10/9/2004, we got SAMVET. What is SAMVET? Now SAMVET got merged, excise credit and service tax credit. Merged together means any input on which excise duty paid or capital goods on which excise duty paid, credit is available. At the same time, service tax paid on input service credit would be available in SAMVET account, replace the mortgage system. And this credit you can utilize for payment of excise duty or service tax or vice versa. 10/9/2004. 1st April 2005, more than 21 states has adopted the VAT system. Then 1st January 2008, state of UP has implemented the VAT into the state of Uttar Pradesh. Now look at when VAT got implemented, empowered committee of all the state has agreed upon, they will follow GST. Look at the way we are developing our indirect tax. This is the way we are looking into GST. It is not. No way possible. Nevertheless, my topic is IT. I'm just recalling, giving some kind of clips where we are heading for. Look at the service tax and excise. The definition of input services and capital goods has got specific meaning. You can't take credit on everything. You are getting your office constructed by a contractor, and this office you are going to use for the provision of taxable output services or manufacturing of excisable goods. Credit is not available by the service tax charged by a contractor. You are constructing factory. Factory is going to be used for manufacturing of excisable goods. I am a contractor charging service tax on you because of construction done on your behalf. You can't take credit. And that we are talking about cascading. You have got certain if and buts for taking credit in the input services and capital goods. It is not limited to excise and service tax. Come to the VAT provision. They have got their own meaning, own limitation. That credit is available on this item, credit is not available on this item. Now look at how to manage everything online. And you may liable to pay differential tax, or you may have paid the excess tax for which refund will not be granted. Starting with the registration part. Registration under excise, you know there is a process defined. If you undertake an activity which is manufacturer activity, you have to take registration under Central Excise 1944. Under service tax, I was asking in the morning, what is taxable even in service tax? Whether receipt of advance money, you pay service tax, you charge service tax on advance receipt. Whether that is the taxable even, or you raise invoice without providing the services, that is the taxable even. Still, look at the way the drafting is being done. And Mr. Gupta invited my attention on the definition of service. Anything other than goods is service. Look at the PT situation. I was telling you in the morning, any activity carried out by a person for another for consideration. I told you if you get 10 lakh rupees supari from me to kill someone, service tax applicable. This is not sufficient enough. I got another attention. Jain Saab, look at the definition in the Constitution of India. That's the way we are heading for. But I'm talking about registration. So we need to understand when registration is necessary. Thereafter you talk about online filing or manual filing. Come back to sales tax. Transfer of property in goods. Along with deemed sale in terms of Article 366(29)(a). So sales tax applicable, no problem. Who is avoiding the tax? Who wanted to evade the tax? No one. Trade, more or less, 99% I'm telling you, they're interested to pay tax. Only practical problem with us, that we are not having clarity. If we want clarity from the department, they say, boss, मैं जो कहता हूँ समझ लो, but writing में I can't give it to you. Go to tax consultant, Mr. A will say, लगेगा, Mr. B will say, नहीं लगेगा. और दोनों के बीच में, he will charge 21,000, he will charge 21,000. Come to the situation 3, when we don't know whether registration is required or not, where the question of online filing. Now let's assume it is required. Online filing, they are certain particulars. Take this one, don't take this one. Are you in this category? Are you not in this category? If not, mention that. I need to be a tax master. Sitting in the manufacturing company or service provider sell tax, now it is totally impossible unless you have tax consultant or you have a tax manager. But if your tax consultant is so super or your tax manager is so super, I'm not creeping. I'm only saying because they have got their own limitation. Within their framework of knowledge, they advise. Let's say he sign up something which is incorrect. Who is accountable? Even though you file online return, it is not being approved by the department. ST1, ST2, you all are aware of. When you file online ST1 service tax registration, you have to go to the range superintendent. Sir, I'm not highlighting that department, nor service tax department. What they do, we have to visit to the range superintendent, sir. मैंने ST1 file किया है online. अच्छा, file किया है? कब किया? What does the IT system mean all about? IT system means, if I file something today, it is visible to you in your department next minute. He can't see that. When you say, sir, मैंने file किया है, paper लेके आया है. Paper लेके आया है, दिखाइए. When you see the paper, okay, I will see to it. But you know, so much of corruption in the system. We all are accountable. I'm not saying only tax department. We are also accountable. Because we provoke that kind of system. To get registration done, to get my return acknowledged, to get my assessment done. And that's the way it's followed. Then you get your work done. At the time of registration, let's say you have taken category. Now I'm talking about this regime of service tax to negative list regime of service tax. No category exists. No category exists. But department, service tax department has issued a circular that we need to deposit service tax under respective service category. I'm asking to the service tax department, sir, you tell me when 65,105 is not existing today, provision, how it is applicable? And that's the way we are filing our registration. Go back to now input credit. When you take input credit, you understand this is the credit available. I have taken construction services, which is for the construction of my factory, service form. They will not say anything to you. Audit comes up. Audit comes with a letter that is called like, love letter. जब आप मेरे से मिलने आओ, ये लेके आओ. X, Y, Z सारे लेंगे आप. That's the next question. I'll submit the return to you. It is done, which is available. So they say नहीं मेरे पास available. You. And that too you have to take out the document. अगर आप लेके नहीं जाएंगे, okay, you are not bringing the same. We have other application, other course of action. But that's the way the things are moving on. When they start on it, they will start asking standard credit account. Ledger दे दो ledger. When you get the ledger, you see you got different ERP application. Oracle, SAP, you got Tally, FAT, VG, so many accounting packages, and you got Excel with a good accounting package. You can add something, you can delete something. And that is being accepted by the department during audit time. They do not understand the online concept. If I am maintaining ERP package, then why they are supposed to take everything on Excel? Excel, you can do articulation, plus minus, addition, deletion, as per your convenience. So from department perspective, sir, when you want some document from a trade, you don't, what are the subsume? Excise, VAT, service tax majorly. Now when we are going to subsume these major taxes, what is the IT system available to us? Today we are not having power. You go to UP remote places, 12 घंटे तो लाइट ही नहीं होती. किस ऑनलाइन की बात कर रहे हैं आप? नॉर्थ स्टेट जहां पे पावर ही नहीं है, चैन पे चल रहा है. डिपार्टमेंट में चाहिए, they don't know how to operate, sorry sir, how to operate the computer. And we are talking about GST, success of GST, which is dependent on IT system. So my only humble submission, as I given clips of GST, my GST in place, are we ready? In terms of our own understanding, I know what are the indirect tax. GST will be biggest indirect tax reform in the country. Are we prepared? Are we prepared to take the opportunity? Look at the company level position. Whether we have educated to our procurement department, sales department, finance department, tax department, what kind of GST we are talking about? Unless we educate GST, we will not be able to bring in the IT system, ERP application. Because your ERP application will be governed by your own knowledge, your own understanding. Unless that is being done, IT is a dabba, garbage box, nothing else. You can create the parameter by domain knowledge, functional knowledge. With that you can create to be to Nagaland. And Nagaland IT is not working, then there would be 2A to be problem like in Delhi. In Delhi there is 2A to be purchase and reconciliation. So we have to prepare overall, not only IT. With this, I am summing up my presentation. Thank you very much.
Companies to put in the tax information exchange system, which is already in place and which is going to be transferred. That whole of the system has been tested by few of the states, and that system is going to be transferred and would be named as Goods and Service Tax Network. The empowered committee of GST is with this idea that this would be governed by an independent body. So they are into making of this system, and I believe that this time the things would be little better. Yes, the availability of power, availability of good manpower, and overall the mindset is very important. As Vimalji has rightly said, what you will feed into the electronic system, the result will be according to that. So thank you. Now I would like to invite Amrita Vitraji, who is the partner in DXC. She will be giving her deliberations on constitutional aspects. Is necessary to provide powers to the central government to tax sale of goods. Now I invite Amrita ji to please.
Good afternoon everybody. I hope this and getting them hunger balance. But we've had very interesting sessions. There have been 5 or 6 speakers. There was one more 6 speakers who spoken on GST. So I think my session will be more like a revision. So I'll quickly run through it. Hope you all bear with me. And there's just one interesting topic which we'll cover, which is on the constitutional amendment. Because technically, if you see, the only thing which is holding up the GST on board be the constitutional amendment. Now what is that, and then quickly get into why we need a constitutional amendment. GST has been defined to mean any tax on the supply of goods or services or both, excluding supply of petroleum, crude, HSE, motor spirit, natural gas, aviation, turbine fuel, alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So basically, anything other than the petroleum products and alcohol for human consumption, potable alcohol, which even today is the potable alcohol is a state subject. So all that the MPART committee, as well as once the constitutional bill was introduced in 2011 March, immediately on 22nd March they introduced this. And why did they introduce this? Because as of today, the list 1 and list 2 of the constitution determine that the central government can only tax manufacture and service. Similarly, the state government under list 2 can tax sale of goods, movable goods, as well as property, etc. Now, how do you bring a GST which is on every supply, whether a 20-page bill, and itself had come out with a white paper in 2009, even post that it took 3 years to draft the bill. And when they introduced the bill, the day the bill was introduced, after 7 days on 29th of March, they referred it to a committee headed by Yashwant Sinha. And thereafter, it's just been lying in cold storage. Now, what is really the process? How do these bills get passed? What happens is that for a bill like the GST, which amends like a basic structure of list 1, powers of the center, powers of the state, 2/3 majority in both houses of the parliament first has to pass it. Thereafter, in addition to this, 50% of the states existing, right now it's 28 or 29, by the time GST comes we don't know how many, but 50% of that have to ratify. So please remember, it's not just the bill being passed which the last government just sat on, like they sat on everything else. It's also, let's hope by 16th of May we get the government I think all of us want. But even that strong government, once it passes the constitution amendment bill in both houses of parliament, will change in our tax rules. Now, what is the proposed GST structure? I'm not going to get into it. I think everybody has mentioned it. Then we are calling it dual GST. It's actually not a dual GST. There will be a GST on every supply, including on imports, which up to now was not taxable by the central or state government except customs. And customs will remain as it is. So there will be a central GST, which will be on imports and all supplies. There will also be a state GST for all the supplies happening from that state, within that state. And there will be a central monitored IGST on every interstate trade. The big advantage of this is that I think I can see a lot of people sitting here from industry. You have this whole artificial system of stock transferring goods, creating a registration in your consultant's office in Assam, let's say, and thereafter showing a stock transfer and selling. And the only reason you did all this was because the very large logistic companies which will be doing this, and since this is a management institute, it would be very interesting if in the supply chain course, which is a part of the MBA or the BBA programs, this is factored in, because this is going to be of a great impact to the entire method in which supply chain is currently engineered in India. Now, the main thing is that GST is really a destination-based tax. So prior in the days, there was some speakers who were talking about, let's take when you make a phone call, how do you get taxed? Well, there is already been, or let's take when you're eating on a train or maybe in a plane, etc. Or if it's a ship, like if you're getting some gym or beauty services done, how do you get taxed? When different jurisdictions are passed through. The government has actually applied its mind to it, to be fair. And all those familiar with service tax, when the negative list came in July 2012, please remember they also came up with this place of provision of services and point of tax rules. So the place of provision of services really takes care, and that is going to really be the framework on which even the GST will happen. So if you're, let's take wherever you have registered your, and got the SIM card, you will be taxed in that jurisdiction, regardless of whether you're making a call outside India or to another state, etc. And so on and so forth. Where you buy your air ticket, you will be taxed there, not where you're going. Similarly, now the main thing in the, here is that all the taxes are being subsumed. I think we have already seen whether it's excise, service tax, CVT, SAT, the state taxes, VAT, luxury tax, etc. All are going to get subsumed, and there is a specific provision in the bill itself which subsumes all the taxes. So from the day it gets passed by the parliament, the states ratify and the president gives assent, all these taxes will go away. Now all of them will go away, and you will just have the SGST, CGST and IGST. That is simple. But is it really that simple? Because firstly, of course, let's take the constitutional bill goes through. What is really going to be the impact on companies? All of us know that there will be registrations which will have to be changed all over. Let's take a bank. Today a bank only pays service tax out of the indirect taxes. They have one registration in, let's take Bombay or Delhi or somewhere, Bangalore. Tomorrow they will have to have registrations for the CGST in every state. They will have to have one central CGST registration, and for SGST in every state they will have to have registration. Which is why I was looking forward to the topic just before me. It is very important that there is a centralized IT network by which all the states operate. And one can sit in one place, take registration for everywhere, all the states. There will be no requirement for physical presentation in those states locally. But is that going to happen? So this dual GST is they are going to be gainfully occupied. Rather, it would be good if the government today does proper IT training of all these people, so that a central pool is created out of all these states who can look after their own states, but who are fully familiar and comfortable in operating with the central IT system. Surprisingly, and I guess they would, but the Constitution Amendment Bill hasn't talked about it. The bill was referred to a committee headed by Yashwant Sinha. The committee has also in August of last year given its report now. So while they have commented on other things, some of the practical issues or like the IT network for sharing the credit, for training the people, is still silent. Just an interesting slide. How was the rate? Of course, we all know we don't know the rate. It may be 20, it may be 8, 16, etc. 16 is actually what is the most consensual rate, even in the EMPART committee discussions from what we have heard from CII. How do the other countries stack up? This is just an interesting slide. I would have hoped that in the bill itself, they had given more stricter provisions for the states not having the power to change the rates. Have a high rate, but a certain rate. Unfortunately, that is not there in the bill. But let's see how do the others stack up. And please remember, other than Brazil and Canada, nobody has a dual system. And Canada also now only 2 states have a dual system, everybody else is central. So Canada it's only 5%, 5% including state and center. Japan 5%, Singapore 7%, UK increased it from 17 to 20 recently, Germany 19, Austria 20, Sweden 25, Australia 10%. And our rate we still don't know. So what we will come somewhere, I guess, in the higher end. Now, of course, everything is going to get covered. Please remember in the coverage, 2 new things are there. One is, of course, that now we already have the negative list. So all services, all supplies, all doing of acts, not doing of acts, Even transfer of property is not required. It's not even required that the two people between whom the supply is happening are two legal entities. Like someone gave an example, even if a stock transfer is a supply. Anyway, we are waiting for the rules. Frankly, please remember your IT system will really have to gear up, because there are 3 pools of credit which you will have to mandatorily keep. One, the credit pool of all the CGST you've paid, one the SGST you've paid, and one on the IGST. The CGST you can use only to pay the CGST, the SGST you can use only to pay the SGST, and IGST is a common pool. So here again the IT systems will have to gear up, and not just for the assessees. Easy on a SAP, the country India module will have it, but even for the department. They will also have to maintain separate IT backup of each of these. Because we are looking at a system where our filing, registration, processing, assessment, everything will be online. So this import CGST and the interstate IGST, the parliament, only the central government can determine. The power conferred by the union and states to legislate on matters pertaining to GST, exclusive power is given to the union for all supply of goods, services through interstate trade, and definite articles have been given for this. This is very, very important, because please remember, in a situation like ours where we might have a different central government and a different state government, this IGST being transferred to the state, if it is delayed, it can definitely upset budgets of states. I'll just elaborate on this. What it means is, let's take manufacturers from UP are sending goods to Maharashtra. So as per all the GST codes of those people, whatever IGST they pay when they send the goods will be electronically transferred and controls bills. There may be a chance of delay if there is any political motive. Hence, the best alternative, both of us are concerned, our mindset has to change. I guess all the course books have to be changed, the law books have to be changed, and most importantly, our mindset has to be changed. So any of you implemented, with the IT being the first thing which is first put out, because the IT network is what is going to take some time, and hence to conclude, I'll just quickly give a roadmap. So the Constitution Amendment, it's called the 115th Amendment Bill. It's already been passed has to be passed by both houses by 2/3 majority. Thereafter, 50% of the states have to ratify the bill. Then the central government will enact CGST and IGST Act along.
I would like to share a few things with you, which are very important aspects of this with the Standing Committee of Parliament, with Mr. Yashwant Sinha and other members of this committee. And ultimately, that settlement commission has been dropped. That total concept of settlement commission, or which Ms. Mitra has referred to as dispute resolution authority, that has been dropped. And GST Council, which was earlier there with under the chairmanship of the Finance Minister of Government of India, with every Finance Minister of the state being member and one Vice Chairman as the state, one of the state Finance Ministers, that has been envisaged. Specific powers have been provided in the Constitution itself, and this GST Council would be the super power as far as envisaging the law for implementation of GST in the center or in the state, because they would be presenting a model law for GST, so as there should be uniformity in GST law. There would be less of confrontations between the states, even though there would be, because you cannot have a similar law being implemented in Kerala for their people, for their economy, for their food habit, as I have talked to, as in Bihar or in Uttar Pradesh or in Punjab. So there ought to be differences. So to meet out those differences, those disputes, the GST Council has been envisaged, and this council would be made by the order of the President of India. So this is the supermost body which would be there in place for implementation and control of GST. I would just like to mention that what the Constitution has put the powers with GST Council. The taxes and surcharges to be subsumed in GST would be decided by this council. The applicability of the exemptions, whether there would be exemption and what type of exemption would be there in GST, that would be decided by this council. The rates of GST on both goods and services would ultimately be governed and decided by this council as being suggested by the empowered committee of the state finance ministers. The threshold limit of turnover below which the tax would be exempted, all those issues would be addressed to this council, and then a decision would be taken. I think other things like what would be the goes to the state exchequer. So they would be governing that taxation aspect, and the more the tax, the lesser would be the consumption. Is in the process, and I believe a good lot has been given by the Government of India and other officials which are drafting this. Because I am amendment bill which we will be going to have in the next parliament, for which we are going to vote on 10th of April. So with these words, I think I would like to know anything else, or should I?
Certified Trader of Personal Finances at Securities and Exchange Board of India. My question is of my personal concern, as well as it may be the concern of everybody who is sitting over here. Sir, my question is, when the VAT was introduced, it was said that there will be reduced cascading effect of taxes, or this will work well at the base of this sales tax. Now, I think so far as the GDP is concerned, this wouldn't work well. Now, my question is comes to my personal thing. When I start my car and the meter raises up, my heart pulse also raises. The thing is, when I reach to the petrol pump, there is rise in the price due to cascading effect of taxes somewhere. And when I go to the road and drive little 50 or 100 or 50 kilometers, then there is toll bridge, where in the hired some kind of bodybuilder type of people are standing over there, and I am just planning, I am just thinking that I am going to just pay something out, and I can't evade tax even if I think of that. What happens? I have to pay there ultimately. And now specify your question. My question is, what about this road tax and this particular toll tax? Whether we are going to include within this GST or not? So far as like many more countries, they haven't included, or somewhere this has been included. So what we are going to be, what we are going to have?
My colleague,
whose powers are being made concurrent through the Constitution Amendment Bill. So right now the GST is only going to make changes by which the state government and the central government, whatever taxes they are levying, will be impacted. Hence entry tax in lieu of octroi, etc. But this tolls and octroi, some road permit tax, which is imposed by the municipal bodies or the Zilla Parishad, etc. If it is, it will not go away. But if it is like a state government entry tax, it will go away. But what you are talking about when you drive out in Noida and pay the toll tax, please remember what is that. It may be called a toll tax, but it's nothing but because on a PPP model, somebody built the road for the government, they are getting back their money. So that will not go away.
Road tax and toll tax.
Toll,
Which I have already paid the road tax.
so the road tax you paid to the state government when you registered your car, right? So that road tax currently is not in one of the lists to be subsumed. It may or may not. to that particular region. But please remember the other toll will definitely not go, because though it may be called toll tax by you colloquially, it's actually nothing but a toll you're paying to the operator who has built that road.
Let me add to it. The road tax is a levy put by the state government. It is governed by the Motor Vehicles Act, and this is a levy at the time of first registration or its renewal for the aim that the infrastructure is built for the roads. So that is the aim with which this or aim to regulate the motor vehicles. That was the aim to introduce Motor Vehicles Act. And this levy as of now is not to be subsumed in GST. This is very, very clear, because this has been debated, and there is no question of this being merged into or subsumed into GST. As far as the fees for usage of roads is concerned, Amitra ji has very well explained. Any other question, please?
Yes. Professor and Head Department of Commerce and Business Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia. I would like to have your idea on the definition of goods and services. Somebody mentioned here that anything other than goods is service. What is the objection to it? What objections can you have?
The same question I cannot answer. Because
It seems there is no
I think which is not goods is service. Just think of. You are sitting in this seminar. This is an activity. Nothing has been charged by Mr. Goyal to provide this or disseminate this information.
No, you are going beyond.
Will you allow me? I have allowed you to speak. Will you allow me, please?
You are allowed to
Please.
speak. You have
Please.
to
Please, no.
But speak on the line, please.
Is spending something which will be reflected in their accounts as an expense. This is an activity. They are not charging a single rupee as a registration for attending as a delegate to this seminar. But this is an activity. As of today, the definition of service mentioned a consideration received for a service. So, at today's date, this expense which is being imparted by ITEM would not be subjected to tax. But in the GST relief, some state would come with an idea that yes, expenses have been made, give us the tax. So that is this vital scope of that definition, which is a big fear to me.
No, sir,
Not to me, but to many of the tax fraternity people. Yes,
So I'd like to add here, I think that is not really the intention, because while the definition of service is very wide, in each of the acts, including the CGST, SGST and IGST, they will also have a section in the definition section, what is taxable service. So just like manufacture or sale is a wider definition, the taxable event, I hope in each of the legislations will be specifically.
You are giving a very wide power to the states, which may be misutilized. That is the apprehension. Because everything is not service. Everything on the earth is not service other than goods. The transactions are being done for the Constitution of India. You are framing Constitution of
In
India.
this seminar without any charge. That was not a good example, as Madam Amrita has said. Any service for consideration. Very good.
There should be an element. Here, what they have mentioned is a negative thing. Anything which is not good is service. Even if there is no element of service in that activity or transaction, how can it be service? Yes, I think.
Look, the international law is service. Any economic activity for supply of goods and services. Now when I say supply, Amrita was absolutely correct in saying the law is going to define a taxable service. That is where we are going to say whether it is a taxable service or not. I just take a very small example. I was working in London and I got a query from a German company which was a car manufacturing company. They entered into it and they said that you are going to charge X amount for all the cars which are going to come to your workshop. This dealer was saying that I am going to incur loss. I cannot work on this price. The agreement between the London dealer and the German company was that if you are going to incur a loss, we will pay you £1 million. The question that was posed to us, there is an economic activity happening between the German dealer and the UK dealer. Money is coming in case they are not able to meet the target. 1 million German company is going to pay. Now when the German company is going to pay, is it liable to tax? Because if you see the definition, anything which is not good is service. If you see to the definition, there is an economic activity happening, not for goods, automatically it is for service. Is it liable to tax? The answer is no. So don't fear. Even a wider definition is not going to create a ruckus in the economy. Not. ECJ, there are plethora of cases. The ECJ is the highest court in Europe. Plethora of cases are there on this. It does not mean that if it is not good, it's liable to tax.
It means, sir, this...
There will be a definition. What is taxable service? There are going to be supply rules. There are going to be the rules for goods as well. Everything will be defined. It's a very well defined law, GST. If you look to the European Union, France was the first country to come up in 1954. UK adopted this model in 1973. All these type of issues have been addressed by the European countries. It's a time-tested model, the best in the world. Don't fear. Nothing to fear.
Who might not have been aware of the various facts given by our expert panel. Just now, I have been informed that Mr. A.K. Khandelwal, AGM Finance and Accounts of Central Electronics Limited, has arrived here amongst us to bless the occasion. We are obliged to have you, sir. Dolly Phillips, head of the Department Management Program IPM, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Speaker and normal speakers had to leave because of their prior engagements, but we to thank sir for sparing the valuable time and gracing our seminar by their presence. So I am sure our participants must have definitely taken a note of the suggestions given by our inaugural speakers, and with a hope that they would be discussing within their organizations. My heartfelt thanks goes to our technical speaker, Ms. Amrita Mitra, who has enlightened on the need of constitution amendments to introduce GST in India. We are greatly encouraged by your gracious presence, ma'am. I to place what we got a special appreciation and profuse thanks to Mr. Mukul Gupta, who has been the foundation of our seminar. He is a backbone of the organizing of the seminar. Thank you, sir, so much.
My pleasure.
Sir, thank you. Enormous thanks to you as well, sir. I am very grateful to our management, IP management, and especially our thanks to our executive director, sir, Dr. B.S. Goyal, who has joined us after prolonged illness. So I really thank sir for his presence today. And our Director General, Colonel Dr. A.S. Malhotra, our Secretary, Mr. Anupam Goyal, for extending their enduring support and meticulous guidance time and time again, which has been motivating us and hosting the events like these. And on the issues pertaining to our main title on GST. Lastly, I would like to convey my special thanks to our distinguished guests who had made possible this event by their presence from distant places. Thank you very much once again, and thank you all.